would be up waiting for you if you had to leave. I would wait a lifetime if you were at sea. I just wanna say that I feel that our love is real. Maybe we should hurry up and seal the deal. Oh, oh, I just wanna love you right. Oh, oh, love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better. 'Cause a love like this is rare. And I wanna take you there. I would give it all away to do it all again. Make our love a story that would never end. Never thought I'd feel so alive, looking in your eyes. I just wanna love you till the day I die. Oh, oh, I just wanna love you right. Oh, oh, love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better. 'Cause a love like this is rare. And I wanna take you there. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. If I'm gonna love somebody, I just wanna love you. Oh, oh, I just wanna love you right. Oh, oh, love you till the end of time. I just wanna hold you for forever. Every day you're making me better. 'Cause a love like
Hello, hello everyone. Happy Tuesday. I get so excited when I see all your beautiful names and faces coming through. Jamie, I love that you already have the full Halloween profile pic. Well done, well done. Gretchen, your Etsy order came today. You're shopping early. It's smart because we're talking about all these like shutdowns, so good job.
There's Jamie's.
Oh, we could not have you miss it. It would just be terrible. Lillian, it's storming your way. I want storms. I know I sound like a broken record, but it is ridiculously smoky here too. We're going on over a month now of hazardous air. It's just, it's pretty depressing. I try not to look out the window. Hi, Lynette. Happy Tuesday. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad everyone's here. It's so fun to see all your names and faces. I miss you all after not seeing you for a week. Let's see. Okay, before we get to Q&A tonight, Diane, your order arrived today. I went downstairs. I left my office and I went downstairs to check on the tech guy earlier today. And his office, every time I walk in there, it's just like this amazing sensory delight. It's so awesome. My favorite is also that you all are like, hey, Jamie, hey, like, how's everybody going? That you all are friends with each other, because I think that's what books do for us. So awesome. So tonight's just going to be a fun, casual QA. So you can really ask me anything you want. I queued up some questions ahead of time too. But before we get into that, I want to talk about something, because I learned something this week in my late 40s that is just mind-blowing. Has anyone discovered something about themselves, you know, later in life, in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, that just like completely changes your worldview? Okay, this happened to me. I have always known since I was a kid that I'm not visual. I've talked with you all about this. Like I'm not visual. I'm completely auditory. I'm a word girl. I talk about that all the time. Well, thanks to TikTok, I learned that there's actually terminology for this. Okay, and I wrote down the phonetic spelling because I'm probably still gonna butcher it. There you go. I think it's aphantasia, where you literally, if I close my eyes, okay, so let's play a game. There's a little visual that shows this. So like if you close your eyes or I ask you to imagine an apple and you close your eyes, there's a sliding scale of what you see in your head. So I am full number 5. If I close my eyes, I see nothing. It's black. I can like hear imagery about apples. I know what an apple looks like, but nothing comes up in my head. It's blank, which I also think is the reason that I was not good at math starting in geometry, because I don't have that visual spatial perception at all. But I'm super curious to hear what you all because I think it's only like 2 or 3% of the population falls into the number 5 category.
Is there anything lower than 1?
Or higher than 1?
Well,
yeah, because there's like
it's
like hyperphantasia, which I think is what you are, because you're like a beautiful mind where you can see so many things.
Yeah, Sky Guy and I could see that apple in 3 dimensions,
Totally.
rotated around, dissected.
Okay, and Su Yin, because you're an artist, I bet that makes sense that you're a 1 or a 2. Is anyone a 5? Am I the only one? Okay, so here's what I've learned. There are pros and cons, obviously. Anna Louise, you are too? Okay, I'm starting to feel better. Did you know it was a thing? Lillian, you're the same? Okay, yeah, I never knew this either. I'm telling you, my entire like week-long mind trip has just been like running in my head, because I think all of these things that I have thought where somebody would say like, oh, count sheep, or, picture this. In my head, all of these years, I've thought like other people are like me because we only see the world through our own lens and view and everything, right? And so I've always thought like that was metaphorically speaking, not that someone would see the actual apple in your head. So, I mean, it's a con, obviously, in some ways. Aaron says maybe this is why my 9-year-old doesn't understand math. I honestly think so, Aaron. You should share this with your 9-year-old, because I felt so terrible about my math skills as a kid. And one thing I know now in watching our son grow up and do math is, teachers are a little more, what do I want to say? Like, I guess open-minded in terms of alternative learning styles. But I was berated in high school, and I was a really hard worker, but it just did not come to me. And I think I gave up then too, because I was like, I'm bad at this. Lenny says, I tried counting sheep the other night and was so frustrated. Where are the sheep? Okay, I'm feeling better that I'm not fully the only one, but it is really life altering. Yes, Beth, exactly. And I think that's why for me, visually speaking, like I have to change out my office, because when I close my eyes, I'm not seeing these things but I'm hearing them. So, okay, on the con side, those of us who fall into the 5 category, unlike Su Yin and the tech guy who are 1s and these amazing artists, and you have these visual talent. The one thing that I read, Anita, you're a 2, but it depends on what kind of day I'm having. Is that true? Anyway, so yeah, on the con side, it's the whole math and the spatial perception. But on the pro side, as I've been doing this deep dive and reading more about it, just because I'm fascinated, because it is like, all these years, I had no idea people were actually seeing the sheep, is that it can also enhance your creativity, because you have to rely on other senses, which makes sense for me because I am so auditory. And I remember in college, if I would go to class, not that I ever skipped class, but every once in a while, if I missed a class, I did poorly on the test. But if I went to class and I listened and I took notes, I did great. And so I think that's so much of my writing process. And I read this study, I took notes on this too, because, we're so professional here, that they did a test of people who fall into the number 5 category versus people who are highly visual. They set up a scene in a room where you had to go in. And so for me, this is like a crime scene investigation. This is my flip. This was not the actual study, but let's just, for the purpose of tonight, pretend like it was a crime scene. And they asked everyone to try to memorize as many objects as they could in the room and then come back and report how many objects they saw, what they saw, where they saw it. And so most of the population who are very visual and can see things in their mind's eye came back, and they had a minimum of 14 errors because they also created objects in the room that weren't actually there because their visual minds are just creating that way. Those of us who fall into category 5 had less than 3 errors. We were most likely to have no false memories, I think because we can't create them. But that's so fascinating to me as a potential for like a suspect, where you're like, ooh, like don't trust the visual people. It's those of us who can't see anything who are going to be like, no, I know exactly what was in the room. So anyway, Sherry says, I see the apple in my fruit bowl and the rest of my kitchen and the dirty dishes in the sink, right? Yeah, okay, that's fair. That totally explains why I always get confused when people give me directions. Oh yeah, instructions list numbers, but you're good at reading maps. Okay, that totally makes sense. But I'm super curious from the artistic standpoint. Yeah, oh, I love it. So fascinating to me. I'm also really curious. I'm not spending that much time on this, I guess, maybe a little bit, but I am curious to see if there are strategies that you can use or employ to try to develop that sense at all. I don't know. I'm going to look into that. If I find anything, I'll report back. But that was my mind blown event for the week. I had no idea, and I'm glad I'm not the only one. But like anything else in life, if life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. And those of us who can't see, well, we're just going to use our senses other ways. All right. So on that note, questions. Bring it on. Okay, these are a few that I received from readers across different social media channels that I thought I would touch on first. And then if you have anything else you want to ask or talk about in general, just put them in the comments and the tech guy is making a list. So Hannah asked, how do you find a publisher? And I would say this question and how do you write a book or how do you write a mystery are probably the things that I get asked the most often. In fact, the reason that I ended up creating my Mystery Series Master class course was just this, because I remember when I was first thinking about writing, I would be the same way, like, how do you find a publisher? Like, what do you do? And it seems like an easy question, but we could literally spend the next 20 lives and I could barely touch the surface. And I think what's interesting and it's collective, it's not something that's unique to any one person. But I think there's this idea that like, we wouldn't necessarily think to like ask a doctor, how do you become a doctor? But with writing or anything that's artistic, the work that's involved maybe gets brushed aside for the idea of like, oh, it's just creative, or how do you write a book, or how do you find a publisher? So the unhappy answer that I have to share, but it's the right answer, is that it's a lot of work and research and time. It's a lot of kind of like putting yourself through writing school. You don't need a degree in writing to find a publisher, but you have to do the work. And so that does mean like research, reading about it, taking courses. There's a plethora of free information on the internet, on YouTube, so it's not something that you even necessarily have to pay for if there's a financial burden, because, writing like anything else, it's an expensive endeavor if you're going to go the independent route, or if you're even going to try to get published traditionally and you are working a full-time job and doing that. So I think my best advice is think of your path to publication, and there's no right or wrong path to publication. I mean, I think one of the amazing things about the time that we're living in is that there are multiple paths to publication, and any of them can take you where you want to go. It's just a matter of like what your personal goal is. I think a lot of people kind of see that nugget out there as traditional publishing. Like I want the agent, I want the publishing contract, which is great and awesome. But that path has pros and cons to it too. There's no like one path that's going to set you up perfectly. And the harsh reality of that is, as an author, you're going to do the lion's share of work. So if you can start in your initial quest to write a book and to find your path to publication, start with like really having a baseline of work ethic and taking initiative. So like, you know, going to conventions, going to hear authors speak. We're not doing that a lot, but yeah, like coming and asking questions here, you know, anything like that you can do to start off on the right foot is good, because that same work ethic is going to apply once you have a book. But at the end of the day, your best path to publication is to pour your blood, sweat, and tears into writing the best possible book that you can write. Because that is going to help you find a readership, whether that's going with a big publishing house, something in the middle, or whether that's going the independent route for yourself. I know that's like a long, short answer, really. But I would just say, like, treat it like a profession. So like put the work into figuring out as much information as you can about whatever path you're going to take. Oh, Lillian, that's so exciting. I'm so glad that you're taking the course. I mean, honestly, for me, like, you guys, our course group is on here. Honestly, like for me, the idea of being able to share what I've learned, and that's the other thing, like, I would run kicking and screaming from anyone who tells you that they're an expert in any way, shape, or form, because I am still constantly learning and growing and pushing myself. So, and I also know that like my particular way of breaking down a mystery and writing a mystery and putting it together, like I feel super confident about that structure, having written 25 mysteries and counting at this point in time. But even my process isn't going to work exactly to the letter for somebody else. So a lot of it is like finding that baseline, having an arsenal of tools, and then going through the process of writing a first draft and going, oh, okay, like that worked for me. I'm going to tweak it this way for myself. So there's a lot there. I know. Whew. Oh, this follows up. So Sara asked, what's your best piece of advice? And Sara did not differentiate whether she meant just in terms of life advice or writing advice, but I think my best piece of advice is to practice kindness. Honestly, kindness at any level. And that applies obviously to life, but it also applies to wanting to have any sort of professional career in writing. Kindness is going to pay off dividends. So don't be the person at the, and I have seen this, I have witnessed this firsthand. Don't be the person at, let's take, and this is fictional. This didn't happen at Malice, but it did happen at a book convention. Don't be the person at book conventions. Let's imagine that we're at Malice Domestic, which is a Agatha Christie like cozy style mystery convention that takes place every year in Bethesda, Maryland, and there are like these happy hours and like cocktail hours where readers and agents and editors and writers, everyone's just mingling. You maybe are having a drink or you're socializing and you're chatting. Well, I saw an author at an event like this just being horrifically rude to a woman who tried to come in and join her conversation. And if you've never been to an event like this, it's super awkward. Like I remember the first time I went, you feel really uncomfortable because there are groups of people who know each other. And it's a little bit like being back in high school where you're like, oh, you know what? I don't want to be like standing alone with my, seltzer water in the corner by myself. Do I just like go in and interrupt somebody? Anyway, so there was this woman who was incredibly rude to somebody who was just kind of trying to like join a conversation. Long story short, that woman who was trying to join the conversation was a big name editor. And the next day, the woman who was so awful to her ended up in one of her pitch sessions. And I think you can probably guess that she did not get a request to read that manuscript. So, kindness, that's my best advice. Kindness, it pays dividends always. Be kind to people.
That's
100%.
pretty good advice, but that's not the best advice.
Okay, oh wow, oh no.
The best advice is to always let the Wookiee win.
Oh no, you got a sound effect for that. Of course. We know, guys, right?
Always.
Always okay. Be kind and let the Wookiee win. It is called Malice Domestic, but there are tons. There's New England Crime Bake. There are a few that focus on cozies, so like Sleuth Fest, New England Crime Bake, Malice Domestic. Those are the three off the cuff. But then there are regional conferences too. So Left Coast Crime is on the West Coast. BoucherCon is the big one. There's Thriller Fest. There's tons. If you are, if you're a lover of mysteries, a writer of mysteries, just a mystery person in general, and you've never been, I highly recommend them. And going back to Anna's question, Helen, don't encourage him. Shauna, shh. We can't let him get in his head like this. Also, the cat has just joined us. Anyway, going back to Anna's initial question of how do you find a publisher, that's another great thing is to attend a conference, because you can go to dozens and dozens of workshops. And the cat would like to come on my lap. You can go to dozens and dozens of workshops on everything, the gamut of writing. But like I was talking about with those cocktail hours, there are agents and editors, and everyone in the industry attends them. So it's a great way to network too, in a kind way. Yeah.
We're gonna go to.
Okay. So Cassie asked, are there any bad things about being an author? I mean, absolutely. There are bad parts of or like less than optimal parts of every career, right? For me, I think being an author means that you're constantly opening yourself up. Like, you have to be vulnerable, because I am taking a story that lives in my blank head that doesn't see anything. I'm taking a story that lives in that blank head, and it's a piece of me, and so I'm attached to these characters and these stories, and I want to put out the best story possible. And at the same time, I am 100% my worst critic. I have a really hard time going back and reading or listening to any of my work, because I will think, I could have done so much better. Or then you have that vulnerability of, once I'm done with a book, I am putting it out in the world for readers. And there are always going to be readers who don't like what I write. No book is going to resonate with everyone, ever. Like, that's just impossible. And so I think one of the challenges of writing is how you develop sort of that thick skin around feedback, which over the years I have learned to do. Not that it still doesn't hurt, but finding that balance of allowing yourself to be open and vulnerable, and also like not allowing all the negative stuff in. And sometimes there's nuggets of wisdom in the negative, but most of the time it's also just like you have to let that go, because you can't please everyone. That, and then copy edits. I was working on copy edits this morning. I was just lamenting to the tech guy. I love copy editors. I could never be a copy editor myself. They are meticulous, but the copy edit process is the worst part of writing for me, because copy editors are supposed to come through the manuscript and like with a fine tipped red Sharpie and just really bloody it up. I love the editorial feedback, because that's more about, what else can you do to strengthen the manuscript or really bring the book to life more. But copy edits is just like all the fine tuning, nitpicking. Like, one of the copy editor's suggestions today was that I shouldn't reference daylight savings time being dark here in Oregon, because it would still be light at 5 o'clock. So like, now I'm going to have to pay attention in November. Like it gets in my head. I'm like, is anyone really reading at that level? I don't know, but probably. Okay.
Did the cat leave?
She left. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's getting a lot of requests.
Oh, I know. She came up. She was going to be like on my lap, but she stopped. Yeah.
Okay.
Lisa wants to know, will you ever write something that isn't a mystery? Yes. Yeah. And that goes back to that idea of like wanting to challenge and push myself too. I am working on book 16 of the Bake Shop Mysteries, which is going to be like, I think my 28th mystery. And so it's also a challenge of making sure, like, how do you keep a series fresh? How do you keep finding ways to kill people off? I've written so many that I have this muscle memory for that. Like I don't want to say it's easy, but it is easier for me to sit down. And I also now trust that process, which is part of why I feel so grateful to get to share that knowledge with my mystery writing students, because I feel confident and like, okay, no, like I know this works. But this last year, I wrote 2 new books that are not out yet, that are still like in process, that are not mysteries. And I was back to square one. I was like a brand new baby where I'm like, how do I do this? What's the plot structure? So yes, I think I really want to follow like where the stories lead me. I also feel like everything that I write is going to have a touch of the cozy in it. Not a body, maybe, not the structure of the plot and the suspects of a mystery, but I don't think I know enough about myself as a writer at this stage of my career to know that I can't escape the cozy. Like at my core, I am cozy. Like I love writing about the food. I love writing about connection, about a sense of place. So like that theme will be in anything new that I publish. Whether that's going to be a rom-com or some women's fiction. I can't ever imagine myself, I mean, I know you should never say never, but I can't ever imagine myself writing a thriller. I can't imagine myself writing something dystopian. It's not in my wheelhouse. So I think like trusting that too, that even if I'm writing something that's different and that might be challenging my brain a little bit in terms of, stepping out of a genre, that like coziness is gonna keep coming through.
This is related.
Jennifer wants to know, have you thought about starting a publishing house for new authors? I have. One of our endeavors, the tech guy and I, is a new publishing arm called Sweet Lemon Press that we're just working on. We're in the process. We're gonna re-release my memoir, which is the very first book that I wrote that's been out of print for a while. So that's gonna be our first project, is like a test run kind of. I mean, I'm super attached to the memoir. The memoir is the book that I had to write. It's the book that cracked me open to writing. It's so many things to me. But before we got to the point where maybe we would be publishing other writers, we need to do some of that ourselves. So that's the goal over the next couple of years. And those titles will probably start launching sometime in 2022 is the goal. There's a lot going on with the supply chain right now, so we're trying to be cognizant of that. And so initially we had thought maybe we'd have something a bit earlier, but I want to make sure that we can actually have books. So yeah.
Oops, wrong
What's
comment.
that?
Sorry.
Diane wants to know, has the tech guy ever lobbied you to write a sci-fi cozy? Something like that I could definitely imagine. Let's just say that there could be some things in the works on that. We love the idea of collaborating. What's interesting is in a collaboration, it's trying to figure out like I'm gonna write it first, and then it's gonna have to get like teched after the fact or something. I don't know what our term is going to be, but yeah. Yes, that's the name. It's named after our lemon tree because we have this very prolific lemon tree, and I don't know, there's just like a sweetness about lemons that I love. Okay. It doesn't yet, does it?
It's in progress.
That guy's working on it.
Yeah.
Stop with the sound effects and get on that. No. Okay, Brian says, hey, Beth, Brian, I understand the safety and privacy concerns, but do you regret not seeing your real name on your books instead of a pseudonym? That's a great question. This comes up a lot. Like, why do you write under a pen name? There are definitely authors for whom a privacy issue might be the reason that they write under a pen name, but actually usually it's much more about contracts. The reason that I write under a pen name is because I was already writing as Kate for my first publishing house. And then my agent sold the Bake Shop Mystery Series. And so in the industry, it becomes this like known secret at some point in time. But at that point in time, I was just really starting out and I was trying to like establish a name for myself. And ironically, the Bake Shop series is what just really took off. So it's much more about contracts. It can also be that a writer might be writing in two very different genres and they don't want those audiences to cross over. So like what I was saying about if I'm writing a rom-com or women's fiction, it's going to be cozy at the end of the day, right? I wish that I had like the ability just to like, not that I can't get angry, but at my core, I'm cozy, right? I'm not really a harsh personality. I never have been. I'm, for better or worse, always optimistic, even though I have bad times and we're living in hard times. But anyway, there are authors who are writing very different. So maybe they're writing a really spicy romance, and then they're writing some like Hallmark style romance. And those two audiences don't really cross over. So they might write under a pen name to make sure that those readers don't get confused, because you don't want a reader picking up. It'd be like if I suddenly started writing like thrillers or true crime serial killer novels or something. A lot of my readers would be like, whoa, I thought Ellie wrote cozies. I'm not here for like the blood and guts. So that's another reason that pen names happen. For me personally, in hindsight, it's been kind of a gift because it almost gives me like a little bit of a separation. I think one of the other challenges, I forgot whose question this was, going back to one of the questions about like, what are the bad things about being an author, is that, you know, as authors, we are having to like share and market our work and our books out in the world. And that can be really uncomfortable too. It's kind of like being the person who is trying to like introduce yourself at the cocktail hour at Malice Domestic. Like, oh, do you want to read my book? Like, I would love it if you want to try. Like, there's definitely a hardship there. And it's something that myself and every author I know, no matter how they're published, struggles with. And so in writing under a pen name, it's almost nice because it gives me like a little bit of like, oh, okay, that's almost like what the brand would do. So I can separate it out that way. So in some ways, I would say it's a gift for sure. Let's see. No, my name is not Ellie. And you know how you can always find out? Oh, I don't have a book right here. Look on the copyright section of any book, and you'll see that a lot of authors are writing under a pen name. Like that, I could rattle off 20 cozy mystery writers right now who are writing under pen names. That's funny, Gretchen. He does. Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to keep track. Oh, this is a related question.
Does the publisher choose a pen name for you, or does the author ever get to choose it? That is a great question, Lisa. So there are different, so I chose my own name. Ellie was my mom's middle name, and Alexander is our son's middle name. So when I chose it, I thought I want to have a connection to the name. And then over the years, I've also sort of become Ellie, but I love both of those names. And it's just sort of like a sweet nod to my mom who died, and then my son who, of course, I adore. There are also, so I chose my pen name, and most authors I would say fall under that category. There is also, though, some contractual house writing that writers can do for some of the publishing houses. So like a publishing house might come out and say, you know, we want someone to write a Pacific Northwest, I don't know, nothing's coming to mind, butterfly mystery. No one's written that. Somebody go write a butterfly mystery, please. But we're going to write that under the house. So the house is going to retain the copyright for that. The reason you can always find an author's real name in the copyright page is because Ellie Alexander doesn't actually exist, right? I exist as Kate for my copyright. So
you can't get paid under the name.
Yeah, and you want to get paid ultimately, right, for your books. So there are some contracts where the house retains the copyright. So they then assign a pen name to the author who's going to be an in-house writer. They're going to write that for the house. One huge example of this initially was the Nancy Drew series. That was a house-owned series. And so that's how that came to be.
Let's go to the next one.
Do you have a favorite recipe, and do you really bake everything from the books? Lisa, I really bake everything from the books, 100%. This weekend, I had a screen time break, and it's smoky. We found some fresh air a couple places. Oh, hey, there's our other line. And I had a bunch of teens in the house, and so they were my taste testers. I'm working on fall recipes, so I had just a lineup of cakes and cookies and all kinds of stuff, and I just lined it up. It's great when I have teens in the house because they eat it all. And do I have a favorite recipe? That's a tough one. I mean, anymore it's like asking, do you have a favorite book or a favorite kid? I do have a favorite kid because I only have one, but I would say it's probably Raspberry Danish from book 1 from Meet Your Baker, because that was my like childhood favorite recipe that my mom made. It's her original recipe, so it always feels like a little touch to her too. Who is calling it? Jamie, who's calling? How dare they?
Robocall.
Okay, what else have we got? One more. Jess. Oh yeah, Jess. This was part of another question too. She was like, I think she said, I've seen your 2 latest book videos, like my TBR stack, and I didn't have cozies on them. Do you even read cozies? I do. I have read and always do read cozies. I know, the tech guy. How many cozies have you bought me over the years?
I mean, it's hard. It's really, it's honestly, I get it's hundreds.
Yeah.
We used to, the kid and I used to, that was your Christmas present every year. We'd go buy like 25 cozies or whatever. And it thankfully I had him along because he remembered which ones you had read and hadn't read based on the covers.
Right, totally. But the reason that you probably haven't seen cozies in my 2 latest stacks, although if you go back, I've done all kinds of videos on my YouTube about cozy series, and I've had my fellow cozy mystery authors on. But when I am working on a cozy, I do not read them. I have some author friends who can do that, no problem. I might read like a historical fiction, like I just read the latest Reese Bowen, Her Royal Spyness, over the summer, because that's different enough than what I'm writing. But as a general rule, if I'm working on a cozy myself, I don't read them. I take a break. And so this is another con of being an author. It's a cautionary tale. It's my warning for you. Once you start writing a lot of cozies, I have to only read them on breaks, and I'm writing a lot, so I save them. I save them for like, I have a stack that I'm excited about, because when I'm in between books, then I will like binge a bunch of cozies. But if I'm actually working on a cozy myself, I tend not to read them. I read a lot of other stuff, and then I come back to them for breaks. So yes. Lenny says, speaking of not seeing things, that has that typewriter lamp always been in the room? No, it hasn't. I found it in the closet. My mother-in-law made that for me, if you can believe it. It's a typewriter, and then it's all sections of my first book, Scene of the Climb, that she cut out and decoupaged on. It's so cute. I'll have to light it next week. All right. Okay. Is that all of our early questions?
Yes, now
okay.
I have a list.
Now we got a list. This is the list. Okay.
Oh, wait, I think there's one more.
Okay. Oh, wait, we got one more. Oh, yeah. Loraine wanted to know, how is the vintage baking book? It's great. Oh, Tech Guy is right behind you. I have a serious...
Oh, God.
I know, be careful. I have a shelf of baking books right there. I have a cookbook problem. As much as I had a cozy problem, I also have a cookbook problem. Look at this gem, the Vintage Baker. It's a thing of beauty. And what I love is like all of the art design in it is so like sweet and retro. And then of course, it's almost like it's like Betty Crocker got modernized almost, because it has that vintage, but all the recipes are, okay, I gotta stop because now, okay. Yes, I love it. It's the Vintage Baker. Who's the author? Jessie Sheenan and Alice Gow. There you go.
Yeah, no kidding.
If we hear a loud crash wave, yeah, I know. I'm like, the other cookbook that's sitting next to it is Dinner with Mr. Darcy. Yeah, that's a real thing. Like, come on.
Why
great is that?
are these stacked this way?
Because I like to look at them when I'm writing. I know. Look at that one. Dinner with Mr. Darcy. Recipes inspired by the novels and the letters of Jane Austen. I mean, come on. Ice cream. And these also have, root cakes. I will refer to this book a lot if I'm writing Bake Shop, because I feel like this is what the professor would bake. Mrs. Darby. Okay, sorry. I will totally not get to any other questions, so I'll put those away. Okay, lay it on me. Loraine wants to know, do you know in advance how many books you're going to write in a series, or is it unlimited? No, I don't know in advance. With my Pacific Northwest Mystery Series, I had an arc. I had a plan for that book that I thought would go 5 or maybe 6 books, and so it went 5 books, and it was perfect. My Rose City Mysteries got a measly 2 books. I would have loved to write more of those, but the publisher canceled those because they didn't sell well. Now, I would say some of that had to do with the covers, but it's really just, it's kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks sometimes, and what book resonates at what time and why. Most traditional mystery contracts are sold in 3 books deals, sometimes 2. A lot of the publishers lately have been going to 2, which is kind of a bummer because it takes a while as a new writer to build up a readership and an audience. Like anything else, it takes a while for a book to find its legs. So in general, I would say most books are sold in 2 to 3 book deals. So you usually know, okay, I'm at least going to write 2. I'm probably going to write 3. Bake Shop, I think I have the cover of book. We're showing book 15 at the end. I already shared it earlier, but in case anybody missed it, those still get bought in 3 books. So I always know that far ahead, and then I have character arcs of where I would like to take things. So yeah. Let's see. If your books were turned into a movie, maybe Hallmark, who would you see playing Jules, Sloane, or Meg? Okay, so Jules, Blake Lively, yeah. Are you with me for this? Sloane, I think it would be Jennifer Garner. Would love Jennifer Garner. And Meg is Anna Kendrick, for sure, 100%.
This is related.
Toy says, have you ever been approached to make your bake shop into a TV? I've noticed a lot of books being made into a TV series on the streaming services. No, Toy, but I would love that. It would be amazing. Unfortunately, I don't have any say in that either as the author. Sorry. My agent would sell that in like sub film rights. So usually what would happen is like a film or TV production studio would approach your agent, and that's how that would happen. So maybe one day, someday, it would be amazing. Lillian wants to know, do you wait until your first draft and edits are done before having someone else close to you read it and give you their opinion? Is it kind of like doing edits too soon? Lillian, on my first book, I was giving every 3 chapters to the tech guy, to my dad, to anyone who was willing to read it. And that was such a mistake because it is too soon. So I do really recommend that you write that first draft, get it done, and then actually come back to it, do a little bit of work yourself, and then you can start giving it to a couple trusted sources. And it's so hard because when we're starting out, it's like, do you just want to read these pages? But the story's going to change so much. And you have to have I think, and I'm not an expert on this, but I think it's better if you have the full book done and complete just for your own well-being, because what it's going to do, if somebody gives you a bunch of edits and suggestions, it's going to take you out of your writing flow where you're trying to just get the story out. It's going to take you out of that and put you in your editor head where then you're going to be like, oh, this is bad. I'm going to piece that apart. So try to hold off if you can. I know it's so tempting. Jennifer says, how old were you when you started writing and decided that's what you wanted to do? I mean, I wrote my first mystery when I was in 2nd grade. I wrote all the way through elementary school, through middle school, through high school, through college, through my early 20s. When I didn't even actually make the choice. The memoir that I wrote, honestly, was a book that I just had to write. Like, for my own grief and healing process, it's a book about losing my mom to young onset Alzheimer's, and our son was a baby at the time, and I was just like emotionally overwhelmed by the whole process. And so I just journaled and wrote because that's what I did for self-care for so many years. And then at the end of that, I thought like, oh, this experience, like I need to share this story. Like I would have read this book. Like I needed this book for myself. And so that's really like what prompted that. And so let's see, I was 32 when she died. So I think I started writing that book when I was 35 or 36. And then my first mystery was published when I turned 40. So it's never too late either. You should definitely like, I think you could write your first book when you're 70 or 80. Anytime. Do it.
That was a response.
I know. It's so hard. I know. I feel you, Lillian. Just wait. Tell her. It's coming. It's coming. Okay, let's see. Lynette says, when you wrote your first few Bake Shop, Sloan, Krause books, did you plan how long you wanted the series to be, or did you plan character arcs without knowing how many books? Yeah, I did. I've always planned character arcs regardless, because I feel like that's like the bones of a story. Like we need that. We need a journey. We need the characters.
She's
to grow.
asking, how do you plan those
how?
character arcs if you don't know how many books are?
Oh, got it. I see. I didn't read that. Well, how do you do it? I just do it, because I think, the cozy is like the structure is my best description. So the cozy is like the structure, but any book, no matter what genre it falls into, is sending your protagonist on some sort of quest, adventure, self-discovery journey. And for me as a reader, like, that's the hook. That's what I want to read. That's what I think we all want to read, right? We don't want to see these cardboard characters who just everything works out magically. We want to see that struggle. We want to relate. We need that to resonate with our own growth arcs. And so I sketch those out no matter what, and throw caution to the wind and hope for the best. Let's see. Yes, Anna, do it. Do it. You're 52. You're a spring chicken, lady. You got plenty of time. I think Agatha Christie published her first book. I gotta look this up. Maybe somebody else knows, but she was not 20 when she published her first book. Okay, let's see. Anna wants to know, what do you think of the Mystery Writers of America? I think that's awesome. I think if you are wanting to write, joining any sort of organization like that is another awesome tool. Mystery Writers of America, crime writers, you have Sisters in Crime. There are so many great organizations. And again, that's another place where you can find a lot of support. Authors, we need support too, because we write in our own little worlds by ourselves, and we are our own worst critics in our head. So you're going to find other authors to cheer you on, and then you're going to find a wealth of information and knowledge. And then a lot of those organizations are going to help with some of the promotion too, to be able to pass on the word. Okay, let's see. I only have time for like 2 more questions because I have a cross-country parent meeting tonight. April wants to know, do you ever meet someone and think, I have to have them as a character in my book? Yeah.
Every day.
Every day. Does the tech guy get tired of going out places with me? Because I'm like, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know that you're talking right now. I'm going to need to take a couple notes for a minute. That's been one.
I don't mind that. It's when you ask me to like secretly take pictures of people that it freaks me out.
That's very true. One of the most delightful things about our mystery writing group is that this is happening. Like, I don't want to call you out, Beth, but I know Beth had an experience with a wait staff member who's going to end up being a character in her book. So I think once you open yourself up to that possibility, oh yeah. And people are great. Like, there's so much good information out there. That's a question that I get asked a lot. Like, oh, do you ever run out of ideas or inspiration? Oh, no, not at all. Like, I have too much. It's more about like whittling that down and going like, okay, what can I really use here? So yeah. Let's see. Okay, one last one. My eyes are going. Chris wants to know, how do you come up with a hook for a mystery? How do you come up with a hook for a mystery? I mean, one of the best ways, I think, is to start with a body. Like, I mean, a body is always a good hook. And then the second thing is just creating, and this is true for any fiction, not just mysteries. You want to start with something that, like shocks the reader, or not shock maybe that's too strong of a word. You want to take the reader out of the everyday. You want something unexpected, like what is that thing, you know? So if you start out a book and it's like, it was a beautiful smoky afternoon in Ashland, Oregon, as I was pouring myself a cup of tea and curling up on the couch with my cozy cat. Okay, right now we're like, okay, yep, it's smoky, you've got a cat, you've got some tea. And then, you know, maybe it's something that is gonna flip the switch on that, where it's like, and little did I know that putting that honey packet in a benign cup of Earl Grey would completely change the trajectory of my life. Dun, 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 right? I mean, you know, like just something that then flips the reader out of the ordinary, where you're like, what's it, is the honey packet, is it poisonous? Like, are they allergic to honey? Is it something about the honey maker? Like, lots of questions come up then too. So yeah, just play around with that and just ask yourself a lot of questions of like, ooh, what would flip the switch here? What would make this different and unique? Okay. Whew. I know I didn't get to all of them. So sorry, but we'll do this again. And I'll try to save them. And yeah, if I can, I'll try to make some shorter little videos to share out. Yeah. Okay. Next. Oh, this is out now. Without a Brew is out in paperback. In fact, I just got my author copies. They came yesterday. They're sitting in a box. I'm going to crack them open. Some of you won copies.
Yeah, so those are going to finally go in the mail.
Those are finally coming because I got my box of books. Yeah. So yeah. The Cure for What Ails You, book 5 of Sloan, comes out in October. So we're going to have a big fun launch party for that one. Can't wait. Bake, Borrow, and Steal, the book that I was doing copy edits on all day today. This book comes out in December. I'm going to have so much more to share with you on this one. And last but not least, this was the cover reveal we did for book number 15, which I cannot believe. Book number 15. Look at that cuteness. Donut Disturb will come out in June of 2022. Whew. Can't wait. And then just quickly, next week, I have my friend John with John's Cozy Corner here. Then we're going to do Shakespeare School with my dad, aka the professor. And then we'll round up the month with the Tech Guy Kitchen. Yay. Whew. Oh, we have October too. I'm still going. We're going to have a launch party and then Cozy Fall Reads. I've got a bookstore event with some friends. And then Jamie, where's my Jamie? We're going to have a Halloween party. And for November, the Tech Guy has already been working on holiday Etsy, if you can believe it. It's like Christmas every day downstairs. I'm going to do a writer-based Q&A. I know we had more writer questions here that I didn't get to, so I'll try to answer more of those. We'll do a Bake, Borrow, and Steal sneak peek. Then we're going to do Thanksgiving trivia, so bring your holiday hats. And last but not least, we will do Giving Tuesday and a Tort Sunday supper preview, which is what we're going to do for December. So, whew. As always, thanks for joining me. It's always so great to get to spend a Tuesday with you. And in the meantime, happy writing and happy reading.